Hello everybody, this is AK. I'm back. So if you have been following my YouTube channel for about a year, and you might remember some videos I published about spotting red flags when it comes to investing in REITs and how I avoided investing in these REITs. Of course, I drew from material I published in my blog over the years for these videos, and I used the examples of Eagle Hospitality Trust, Dasin Retail Trust, and EC World REIT, right? There are many other examples, of course, but I've only produced videos for these three REITs so far. And today today I want to talk about Keppel Infrastructure Trust, and it's not necessarily about red flags, okay? Because I've not looked at this Keppel Infrastructure Trust for a long time, right? I just want to share something from my past, because there are lessons to be drawn from history, and sometimes from certain actions that the management or the entity did in the past. I might avoid that investment forever or for a very long time, right? Because it left such a bad taste in my mouth. And that's the case with Keppel Infrastructure Trust all the way back donkey years ago, for me anyway, right? So a reader asked me, hi AK, what's your view on Keppel Infrastructure Trust? And my reply was, this one I threw away long time ago, not looking at it again. This was in 2014. And something happened back in 2014 that made me so angry that I say KNS. All right, I won't say what KNS means. And I threw everything, I dumped the investment and never look at it again. Right. Back in 2014, I said I got into K Green Trust. It was called K Green Trust back in those days. I got into K Green Trust a few years ago at $1.11 per unit. I was attracted by its zero gearing and relatively decent distribution yield. Okay, I have to say something about this zero gearing. I also invested in another trust called High Flux Water Trust a few years before that, and that also had zero gearing. I remember paying something like 30 cents or around there, and later it was privatized at 70 plus cents per share because it was bought over by a Japanese company. So High Flux Water Trust was a very good investment for income, zero gearing, very strong balance sheet, paid regular dividends, and later on it was privatized. It was sold to a Japanese company, and I had 150% capital gains. So when I look at K Green Trust back then, zero gearing, relatively decent distribution yield. Do you see the similarity? Right. So I was receiving a distribution per unit of about 8 cents a year from K Green Trust. So it was about a 7% per annum distribution yield. For investment for income, it was very decent, especially in the low interest rate environment. And of course, with zero gearing, I was waiting for K Green Trust to gear up and acquire some DPU accretive investments. But I waited for 4 years and nothing happened. They didn't acquire anything. And you know what happened next? They did a merger with City Spring Infrastructure Trust. Horrible, because I had horrible experience with City Spring as well, and I had horrible experience with City Spring because they had a very weak balance sheet, and they assured shareholders that they didn't have to raise funds from shareholders to strengthen their balance sheet. And guess what? After that, they went on to do not one, but 2 rights issue to strengthen their balance sheet. So I had very little confidence in City Spring, right? I dumped my investment in City Spring when I could break even. I got out of it, and I just held on to K Green Trust. And then K Green Trust and City Spring decided to do a merger. But of course, we know who the parent of K Green Trust and City Spring was. And so basically, K Green Trust took over City Spring's weak balance sheet, right? It was an unequal marriage in my mind, right? K-Green Trust assets had limited lifespan, but like a good cup of coffee that was being slowly finished, we just had to top it up with more coffee. Right now, with City Spring, is having a good cup of coffee and a cup of coffee that was bad, and you mix the 2 cups of coffee together. Right? I didn't like it at all, and I thought there was some political reason, but I'm sure I'm going into that because I might get POFMA. Okay, so in the last few years, I have not to look at Keppel Infrastructure Trust because that incident back in 2014 left such a bad aftertaste in my mouth, right? If it could happen once, it might happen again. I don't know what's next. So there are some investments which I stay far away because of something that has happened in the past, and it might look better now, but I still stay away from it because I say if it can happen once, it can happen again, right? So people ask me about OUE, commercial trust, for example. That one I'm also staying away, right? Because I think of lipo, I think of that kind of thing, and I get a bit frightened. Okay. Anyway, this is what I think. You have to think for yourself and see whether this is a good investment today. For me, I'm out. Okay. If AK can talk to himself, so can you. Bye bye.